Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Cathrine. I'm going to be speaking about the Marine Spatial Handbook that we have prepared and which is based on underwater domain awareness framework. So starting off, I think everyone here would agree why ocean is important. I have just summarized a few points as to why ocean is important with respect to climate, economy, and security. Um, these interests, though they seem disjoint, they are competing interests as well, which lead to conflicts, fragmentation, and overexploitation. Oceans today act as is very important for climate regulation. It acts as an economic engine, driving a lot of global trade and economic growth. And it anchors security. So, maritime security is ensured. It ensures safe passage and resource protection, and it has a lot of connotation for security aspects. So, the handbook integrates marine spatial planning and underwater domain awareness for inclusive, sustainable, and secure ocean governance. So, we'll see how that pans out in the wide sense of ocean climate. And 100% of it is shared. It doesn't belong to one single country or one single person. So, given that today ocean is important for food security, energy production, global transportation, climate regulation. So the way it was impacting our lives, let's say a decade or 2 decades back, and now is drastically different in all of these aspects: food security, energy production, global transportation, and climate regulation. So the critical challenge here is because it's a shared resource, oceans are vulnerable to overuse, pollution, and unsustainable exploitation. And where does marine spatial planning come into picture? So marine spatial planning is a public process wherein you expect transparency, you expect inclusivity while making such plans, and also we take into consideration all the spatial and temporal components of human activities and ecological activities. And then we also look at how to allocate the resources that we have mapped and analyzed to make sure there is equity, there is sustainability in how we are using it. So the key benefits of marine spatial planning is reducing conflicts, enhancing coordination among stakeholders, balancing different objectives, economic, ecological, and social, ensuring sustainable use of marine resources. The marine spatial planning concept has evolved through the years. From the Cold War era, where the major concerns are military and security, but as the plaguing war-like situation diminished, and we entered into um, the globalization era, which is post 1990s, we started to recognize, and based on more scientific developments, the ecological limits and the importance of biodiversity protection. The development from the 1990s has led us today to various concepts which need integrated framework, combining security, economy, and ecology through blue economy and climate change actions. So the historical drivers, or the traditional conventional drivers, have been security and territorial disputes, environmental degradation awareness, climate change urgency, economic development pressures. But today we have become we need more specific integration, the modern integration, which are the economic growth and job creation that needs to be integrated into the plans, make the environmental protection and restoration is properly integrated. And we also take into account the social equity and community needs, along with the national and regional sector. Though they seem very similar to the historical ones, the way the geopolitical dimensions have evolved are starkly different. The scope of MSP in the modern ocean governance actually encompasses these four major components. So the marine industries, the economic factors, the policy integration, making sure that various obstacles and setbacks are taken care of at the policy level, global, regional, and national levels. making sure the climate action is aligned with your global SDGs and ESG parameters, and making sure the conflict resolution mechanisms are properly put into place. And such marine spatial plans can take three different forms, which could be a global form, a regional form, and a national form. And each of them have their own challenges and opportunities. So the global MS, this is something where we make a comparison between what the Western approaches have been and what the global South needs. So the Western approaches, because of the economic superiority, technological superiority traditionally, uh, has been hardware intensive, but and has had a more of a temperate focus and more resource intensive. But what the global south needs is a more of a low cost solution, adaptive models, and tropical customization. And within this context, it is essential to avoid Cold War era legacy systems and unsuitable frameworks that don't address these needs, the community needs, the stakeholder needs, the resources and environmental conditions of developing nations and tropical marine environments. So the challenges and opportunities in resource-constrained regions, which is typically the global south, include the limited resources, fragmented governance, and awareness gap. The local knowledge and the skilling initiatives, which can drive sustainable and inclusive growth, needs to be integrated into all of our plans. The opportunities that we are looking at is innovation, given the population growing use of AI and ML and the talented workforce that we have, the community engagement that is possible because there's a lot of places to explore, there's a lot of economic possibilities, digital transformation, regional collaboration to share resources, expertise, and best practices to to come out of the bubble and make sure that the regional collaboration and partnerships and various avenues for that are explored. So UDA, the conceptual framework, as Dr. Das has already explained, the stakeholders, the way we take up the projects and the way we address the issues and come up with solutions is something that the framework very nicely encompasses. So the five pillars that we look at when we want to take up these is what is the strategy, what is the innovation that we are looking at, and how can this contribute to the skilling of the people, and what kind of knowledge base we are generating, the accessibility of the knowledge, and what is the fundamental research that we need to take up to make sure that the tropical customization, which we are talking about, can be put in place. So the whole the concept is first you see making sure the sensing and the monitoring technologies are in place and the data collection systems are properly, more community aligned, and making sure that the security issues are taken care of, and to understand the data to make sure that we recognize the pattern. And this can vary from place to place. For example, for the Bay of Bengal region, we are more concerned, let's say, about shipping or shipping accidents or disaster preparedness. So we understand what kind of data we are looking at, making sure that we are using such, we are taking away from the generic data and trying to make sure that it is more context specific, location specific, and caters to the need of the people. So that is to understand and to share that information with the public through apps and various technological factors that we can think of. So the Indo-Pacific is in this particular context a very important player. So it is at the epicenter of the global power balance and strategic maritime importance in the modern era. But the technologies that we currently use, which is the sonar systems, suffer 60% degradation, and which requires and which is not addressed properly. And 40% of the global trade passes through the Indo-Pacific, and it is home to about 3.5 billion people. So given these conditions and even rich biodiversity, demographic advantage, strategic choke points, how India and the countries in the Ocean region are very specially placed for collaboration and integration and partnership for skilling programs, sharing of sophisticated analytical capabilities, comprehensive digital transformation, etc. So the roadmap of the handbook that Maritime Research Center has come up with includes these three major categories. So what are the policy interventions that you're looking at? What are the technology interventions that we require? And what is the capacity and capability building approach that we should follow? So the policy intervention actually looks at what are the strategic governance frameworks in place and what needs to be changed to remove, let's say, the fragmentation, acting in silos, the ministerial gaps, etc. And how to adapt the tropical conditions methodologies, how to make sure that research is taken up for making sure the technologies are robust and multi-stakeholder functions basically tells you the modeling and simulation, um, the advanced modeling and simulation that we can perform to make sure that it is more cost effective and we end up with strategic decision making. And then we also have the acoustic monitoring systems. Um, that because ocean is something where without acoustics you cannot perform anything. So you're blind inside the ocean if you don't know your acoustics. And acoustics vary from different regions within the oceans, the shallow waters, the tropical regions, etc. So how do you address that? How do you monitor those systems and how do you make sense of that? So customizing your acoustic monitoring systems to your to the place that you are in is essential. And the tropical specific technologies. So once you understand all of that, what are the technologies that you would recommend? And the final is the capacity and capability building. So there are layers of capacity and capability building approaches, which I'll be talking about in the later slides. So each of these areas builds upon the other and creating a comprehensive approach to sustainable ocean governance, addressing various unique challenges and opportunities in resource constrained regions. So the policy interventions which I've already mentioned include the institutional barriers, how bureaucratic challenges need to be overcome, because MSP is a very, it's not a new concept, but it's not, readily adapted in this part of the world yet. So we need to make sure that the legal and the policy uh, platforms that we need for making it work needs to be thought of properly, should be backed by proper research, should be debated, and the merits of, let's say, the underwater domain awareness framework, which this handbook actually talks about, taken into consideration. So the UDA integration, minimizing fragmentation. So UDA actually helps you minimize fragmentation. It improves transparency because your data and the way you are dealing with the data analytics and taking it to the different stakeholders, it's all properly structured to the UDA work. So the tropical focus also needs to be considered because even the policymakers, are largely unaware of how important such focus is while designing our policies. The Indian Ocean leadership and also making sure that in the Indian Ocean region, India having one of the largest coastlines can play a very important role, and also because a lot of trade passes through this, we need to make sure that we understand what is happening around our shores and making sure that our neighboring countries um, understand and and are aligned with each other in terms of what they are thinking without competing interests. So the leadership plays a very important role, and the Indian Ocean region can become like a very global leader for various regions around the world. So also aligning whatever we are doing in MSP with ESG and SDG is also important when we talk about the policy impacts. And finally, impact assessment, which could be both environmental and the economic impact assessment, should also be integrated into policy interventions. Technology intervention is something that my colleague Sridhar is going to expand on. But to summarize, we are actually promoting the advanced modeling solutions, which is cost effective planning and strategic decision making for complex ocean environments. So what we are looking at here is customized underwater channels and ambient noise models designed for the tropical conditions. One way that we do this is through the source path receiver model, which is sophisticated signal processing and acoustic analysis of in the tropical regions, and making sure, for example, let's say some port is coming up, shipping lanes are passing through somewhere. What is the impact that is going to have on the ecology of that area or the other human activities that are going on in the area? So understanding and implementing proper source path receiver model plays a very important role here. The second one is data analytics indigenization, making sure that the context is understood. And without generic prescription, we look at what different problems in different areas would need based on the data that is collected by themselves. So, establishing proper monitoring systems in that area and making sure that the capability to analyze data is also available within that particular community or that particular local government, because having the analytical power is something that can change the way somebody holds the power to take decisions. So if you are able to analyze the situation that you are in based on, let's say, indigenous knowledge also, and with these modern information, you are able to take decisions which favors your situation without any other external vested interest. So that is very important there. And although modeling and simulation provides you with a particular model, how do you trust that? So for that, what we suggest is that we do validation, because we don't want to get into all of the hardware intensive programs. We will after the modeling and simulation based models are set up based on the data available, we take up the validation step, which makes sure that our results are accurate before we do the final deployment. So to make all of this possible, we need the workforce which is capable of understanding the importance of acoustics, plus all the other important knowledge related to, let's say, marine biotechnology, marine energy transition, etc. So all of those different capabilities are also required when we take up this process of marine spatial planning. So the critical challenge is that we do not have the expertise. We do not have enough people, but it is possible to take it up. And because we have so many students graduating every year, and we have so many people working in the government, in the government, who have the power but do not have the proper resources to undertake such crucial decisions. So the capacity building that we have planned ends up giving you analytics specialists, data scientists, technical specialists in acoustic engineering, field deployment and operations team specialists. So these are the different categories of people and we have designed courses for catering to the needs of all of these different portfolios. And so the innovation ecosystem for building this capacity is three-tiered. One is the hardware to make sure that the sensing capabilities are in place. And the second is the software, which is the analytical tools. And the hybrid is sharing the hardware and the software knowledge with different stakeholders through different knowledge sharing platforms. So our the whole system is how you take up the outreach initiatives and making sure you engage with all of those stakeholders and making sure you sustain all of your efforts through long-term capacity maintenance and implementing the solutions on ground. So these are some of the pictures from our field visit to Maharashtra, Gujarat, and Kerala coast. So here we've met with fisherfolk who shared with us their issues, the lack of the major issue was they understood technology, but they didn't have the proper technology that catered to their problems. So once we shared what we had developed, the APY analysis tool, the sediment management framework, and even the shipping radiated noise tool, we received some positive responses from them about how that could help them understand their marine activities. These people are mostly involved in seaweed cultivation, fishing, etc. And even our the internal team, which was not able to visit, we arranged for a small webinar for them where we explained to them about the sustainable blue economy. So it's not like about us imparting knowledge; it's also about getting there. So if I talk to them about sustainable blue economy, they already know what blue economy is in their local context. So understanding that plus connecting it to what the global definitions are, what the missing components are from our side and from their side, and coming up with a joint solution is something that was the output of this particular field visit. And we also validated some of our emerging tools. Our research fellows and interns were involved in this initiative. So the key takeaways for ocean governance from the handbook is the essential integration between MSP and the UBA, the convergent strategy between policy, technology, and acoustic capability building, the tropical specialization, and the need for inclusive growth, making sure the community management and strategic global cooperation initiatives are aligned with each other. So the recommendation and the future outlook for the policymakers is to make sure that the integrated governance approaches bridges traditional maritime management with modern technological capabilities. For technocrats, it's to prioritize modeling and simulation for the obvious reasons which I've already explained. For researchers, it is to build capacity in tropical acoustic science and develop region-specific solutions for underwater domain challenges.